From the ashes of revolution, a new nation emerged, eager to claim its destiny. The United States, stretching westward towards the setting sun, cast its gaze upon a land of immense promise, the Ohio Valley, a spirit of adventure, a hunger for land, a belief in manifest destiny. These forces surged through the young nation, driving it ever westward. But this land of opportunity was not unclaimed. For centuries, the Miami people thrived in the heart of the Ohio Valley. Masters of the rivers and forests, they built a vibrant culture deeply connected to the natural world. Their villages dotted the landscape. Their canoes plied the waterways, their lives woven into the very fabric of the Ohio country. They called themselves the Twitwi, the men, a testament to their strength and resilience. To the newcomers, they were known as the Miami, a powerful force to be reckoned with. The Shawnee, known as the Southerners, were renowned for their deep spiritual connection to the land. Masters of the woodlands, skilled hunters and fierce warriors, their lives were governed by ancient traditions passed down through generations. They believed the Creator dwelled within all living things and sought to live in harmony with nature. The arrival of outsiders, encroaching upon their sacred hunting grounds, threatened their very way of life, sparking a fierce determination to defend their homeland. Forced westward by earlier waves of European expansion, the Delaware people, known as the Lenape, carried with them a legacy of resilience. Skilled diplomats and keepers of ancient traditions, they sought peaceful solutions, but their history was one of broken treaties and forced migrations. Now, in the face of renewed encroachment, they found common cause with the Shawnee and Miami, their destinies intertwined in the struggle for the Ohio Valley. Here, in the fertile expanse of the Ohio Valley, two worlds collide. One, ancient, its people deeply connected to the rhythms of nature. The other, driven by ambition and a hunger for expansion. A clash was inevitable, a tragedy waiting to unfold on the banks of its rivers and amidst its dense forests. This land, a place of abundance, was about to become a battleground for the future of a nation. Drawn by the allure of fertile land and the promise of a fresh start, a tide of settlers flowed westward. Families journeyed in Conestoga wagons, their belongings packed tightly, their hearts filled with hope and apprehension. They braved treacherous trails and harsh conditions, determined to carve out their piece of the American dream in the untamed wilderness. But the westward expansion of the new nation came at a cost. Treaties intended to establish boundaries and maintain peace were often broken. The ink barely dry on agreements meant to last for generations were washed away by the relentless tide of westward expansion. To the indigenous tribes, these broken treaties were a betrayal of trust, fueling resentment and stoking the fires of resistance. Two cultures, vastly different in their ways of life, their beliefs, their very understanding of the world, collided in the Ohio territory. The settlers viewed the land as a resource to be tamed, a wilderness to be conquered. The indigenous tribes saw it as sacred, inhabited by spirits, intrinsically linked to their very existence. The competition for land, resources, and dominance created a chasm between them, a chasm deepened by fear, misunderstanding, and the inevitable friction that arises when worlds collide. As the pressure mounted, tensions escalated. Raids and reprisals became commonplace. Frontier forts, symbols of defiance against the wilderness and its native inhabitants, became flashpoints of violence. Both sides, bristling with suspicion and fear, armed themselves for a conflict that seemed increasingly difficult to avoid. The Ohio Valley, once a tapestry of interwoven cultures and shared resources, was now a battleground. A line had been drawn in the soil, a dividing line between two visions for the future of the land. On one side, the fledgling United States, determined to secure its frontier and fulfill its destiny as a continental power. On the other, a confederation of Native American tribes fighting for their ancestral lands, their way of life, their very survival. The stage was set for a conflict that would determine the fate of the Ohio country and leave an indelible mark on the soul of a nation. In the halls of power, a new nation grappled with its burgeoning identity. President George Washington, facing defiance on the frontier, resolved to assert American authority in the Ohio Territory. He entrusted this task to General Josiah Harmar, a veteran of the Revolutionary War, charging him with leading the newly formed American army into the volatile region. Harmar's legion, burdened with supplies and expectations, ventured into the untamed expanse of the Ohio wilderness. Dense forests swallowed the soldiers whole, swift rivers impeded their progress, and the constant threat of ambush hung heavy in the air. The challenges of this new kind of warfare, fought not on open battlefields, but in shadowy forests and along treacherous riverbanks, soon became apparent. From the depths of the forests emerged a leader who would become a legend. Little Turtle, war chief of the Miami, possessed a strategic mind as sharp as any European general. He understood the terrain, he knew his enemy's weaknesses, and he commanded the loyalty of warriors from multiple tribes united against a common enemy. Little Turtle, the warrior diplomat, was about to become a formidable obstacle to American expansion. Near the banks of the Maumee River, a trap was sprung. Little Turtle and his warriors, masters of stealth and cunning, unleashed a devastating ambush upon Harmar's unsuspecting forces. The forest, once serene, echoed with the roar of muskets and the war cries of the Miami and their allies. Outnumbered and outmaneuvered, the American lines crumbled under the relentless assault. Harmar's campaign, meant to quell resistance, had instead ignited a firestorm. The rout was on. Demoralized and defeated, Harmar's army retreated from the battlefield, leaving behind their wounded and their dreams of an easy victory. The news of the debacle sent shockwaves through the young nation. Subduing the indigenous tribes of the Ohio Valley would not be a simple undertaking, a truth driven home with each fallen soldier, a truth echoing in the hearts of those who returned in defeat. The sting of Harmar's defeat reverberated through the halls of Congress and the heart of a young nation. Determined to salvage American pride and secure the Ohio Territory, President Washington turned to General Arthur St. Clair. A hero of the Revolutionary War, St. Clair carried the weight of a nation's expectations on his shoulders. He was tasked with assembling a new army, one capable of avenging Harmar's humiliation and crushing the Native American resistance. Across the fledgling nation, the gears of war were set in motion, from the bustling cities of the East to the frontier outposts of the West. Men and materials converged. Blacksmiths forged cannons, merchants assembled provisions, and raw recruits, eager for glory or perhaps simply adventure, heeded the call to arms. A vast logistical machine was set in motion, its sole purpose to equip and deliver a force capable of conquering the Ohio country. But even as St. Clair's army swelled in numbers, its weaknesses became glaringly apparent. Many recruits were inexperienced, ill-disciplined, their ranks riddled with disease. Weapons proved inadequate, supplies meager and unreliable. Corruption festered in the supply lines, leaving the soldiers ill-equipped for the rigors of wilderness warfare. The seeds of disaster were being sown, even as the drums of war beat ever louder. And what of General St. Clair? He was a man burdened not just by age and illness, but by the immense responsibility resting upon his shoulders. He understood the stakes, the security of the frontier, the credibility of a fledgling nation, and the lives of the men under his command. Haunted by these pressures, St. Clair pressed forward, leading an army ill-prepared for the crucible of combat. Into the heart of the Ohio Territory marched St. Clair and his legion. The dense wilderness closed in around them, the trees like silent sentinels, the rivers treacherous and unforgiving. Deeper they marched, further from civilization, deeper into the clutches of a hostile land. The men, weary and increasingly apprehensive, pressed onward, unaware of the fate that awaited them. For lurking in the shadows was Little Turtle, his cunning mind already devising a trap that would send shockwaves through the fledgling nation. As autumn painted the forests of the Ohio Valley in hues of gold and crimson, General St. Clair's army marched toward destiny. Along the banks of the Wabash River, they established a camp, seeking respite after weeks of arduous travel. A fragile peace settled upon the weary soldiers, a false sense of security in the heart of hostile territory. Unbeknownst to them, in the surrounding woodlands, a storm was gathering, a tempest of Native American fury poised to break upon them with the fury of 1,000 storms, united by a common purpose to defend their ancestral lands. A formidable alliance of Native American tribes assembled under the leadership of Little Turtle, the mastermind of the Miami, Blue Jacket, the fiery Shawnee war chief, and Buckongahelas, the respected Lenape elder. They were warriors, diplomats, and spiritual leaders, bound by a sacred oath to protect their people and drive back the tide of invasion. Like phantoms in the forest, Native American scouts moved with stealth and precision. They observed the American encampment, counting their numbers, gauging their defenses. Their presence, undetected, was a testament to their mastery of the woodland realm, a silent whisper of the danger lurking just beyond the perimeter of the unsuspecting camp. The struggle for the Ohio Valley extended beyond the borders of the newly formed nation. From their strongholds in the north, British agents watched with keen interest, their allegiance lying not with the fledgling republic, but with the preservation of their own influence in the region. They provided weapons, supplies, and whispers of encouragement to the Native American alliance, seeking to limit American expansion and preserve their foothold in this contested territory. As darkness descended upon the Ohio Valley, casting long shadows across a land on the brink of war, two worlds prepared for a confrontation that would seal their fates. Within the American camp, exhausted soldiers drifted towards a restless sleep, unaware of the danger closing in. And amidst the ancient trees, under a canopy of stars, a warrior force prepared for battle. Their faces, painted for war, reflected the firelight, their silence a prelude to the storm that was about to break. As a cold, gray dawn broke over the Wabash River, a terrifying sound shattered the stillness. The earth trembled beneath the feet of charging warriors. The forest erupted in a chorus of war cries as Little Turtle's alliance, a symphony of fury and determination, unleashed their attack upon St. Clair's unsuspecting camp. The American camp, moments ago, an island of order, dissolved into chaos. The crackle of musket fire filled the air as startled soldiers, many still clutching mugs of coffee or struggling into their boots, found themselves thrust into a desperate struggle for survival. Outnumbered and outmaneuvered, they fought back with courage and desperation against the relentless tide of Native American warriors. From the shadowed woods to the heart of the encampment, a maelstrom of violence raged. Tomahawks flashed in the morning light, clashing against bayonets and swords. The roar of musket volley punctuated the air, a grim symphony of battle. On both sides, men fought with uncommon courage and ferocity, driven by the desperate desire to survive, by the unwavering belief in the righteousness of their cause. Amidst the horror of battle, acts of incredible courage shone through. Young soldiers, barely old enough to shave, stood firm against overwhelming odds. Officers, their voices hoarse from shouting commands, rallied their men time and again. And in the makeshift hospitals behind the lines, women, their hands stained crimson with the blood of the fallen, tended to the wounded with unwavering compassion. But as the hours wore on, the tide of battle turned inexorably against the Americans. Ammunition ran low, casualties mounted, and the will to resist crumbled. What had begun as a hopeful campaign to secure the frontier ended in unimaginable carnage. By midday, St. Clair's army was utterly routed, its survivors scattered, leaving behind a battlefield littered with the bodies of over 600 American soldiers. It was the single greatest defeat inflicted upon the United States by Native American forces, a dark day etched in blood and sacrifice. Silence descended upon the battlefield, a chilling silence broken only by the groans of the dying. The once vibrant camp, now a shattered wasteland, stood as a grim monument to the devastating consequences of St. Clair's defeat. Where just hours ago the hopes of a young nation had marched, lay hundreds of American soldiers, their dreams of glory and conquest extinguished in the cold soil of the Ohio wilderness. From the bustling cities of the eastern seaboard to the fledgling settlements of the Kentucky frontier, the news of St. Clair's defeat spread like wildfire. Newspapers, their front pages bordered in black, recounted the gruesome details. Church bells tolled in solemn remembrance, and in homes and taverns, citizens struggled to comprehend the magnitude of the disaster. The fledgling republic, scarcely a decade removed from its triumphant revolution, reeled from this devastating blow to its pride and its aspirations of westward expansion. In the wake of such a catastrophic defeat, blame fell swiftly upon the shoulders of General Arthur St. Clair. His health, already fragile, crumbled under the weight of scrutiny and recrimination. Accused of incompetence, even negligence, he became a scapegoat for a nation grappling with grief, anger, and the realization that subduing the Ohio Territory would be a far bloodier affair than many had anticipated. Though he would maintain his innocence, his reputation lay in tatters. St. Clair, the once revered Revolutionary War hero, was unceremoniously stripped of his command. His military career brought to an inglorious end. From the ashes of defeat arose a fervent demand for change. Within the halls of Congress, passionate voices called for investigations, demanding accountability and a thorough overhaul of the nation's fledgling military. The clamor for reform resonated throughout the young republic. The lessons of the Wabash, etched in the blood of American soldiers, underscored the urgent need for better training, improved equipment, and above all, more capable leadership. St. Clair's defeat, a tragedy for those who perished on that distant battlefield, became a turning point in the shaping of a nation. It revealed the vulnerability of the young republic, but also ignited a spirit of resilience, a steely determination to learn from its mistakes. Across the land, citizens rallied, determined to avenge their fallen countrymen and secure their nation's borders. Out of the crucible of defeat, the United States would forge a more capable and determined army, one ready to face the challenges ahead, determined to secure its destiny as a nation forged in the fires of adversity. With the humiliation of two successive defeats weighing heavily on the nation, President Washington sought a leader who could turn the tide in the Ohio country. His choice fell upon General Anthony Wayne, a man known for his fiery temperament, his unyielding discipline, and his brilliant tactical mind. Earned during the Revolutionary War, his nickname, Mad Anthony, was a testament to his ferocity in battle, a moniker whispered both with fear and with respect. Taking command of the demoralized and depleted Legion of the United States, Wayne set about forging a fighting force the likes of which the frontier had never seen. He drilled his men relentlessly, instilling in them not only marksmanship and discipline, but also a deep understanding of wilderness warfare. From dawn until dusk, the fields echoed with the sounds of musket fire, the clash of bayonets, and the barked commands of officers, transforming farmers and shopkeepers into a cohesive and lethal fighting force. Wayne, a student of warfare, understood that victory would not come from brute force alone. He studied the tactics employed by Little Turtle and his allies, recognizing the genius of their ambushes, their mastery of the terrain, their ability to exploit the weaknesses of a conventionally trained army. He pored over maps and intelligence reports, strategizing with his officers, determined to avoid the costly mistakes of his predecessors. Near the very ground where St. Clair's army had met its ignominious end, Wayne ordered the construction of the imposing new fortification, Fort Recovery. Built from the salvaged wreckage of the previous defeat, it stood as a symbol of American resolve, a stark reminder of the price of failure, and a bastion of strength against the looming storm. Gone was the ragtag assembly that had marched to disaster under Harmar and St. Clair. In their place stood the newly forged Legion of the United States, well-equipped, rigorously trained, and burning with a desire to avenge their fallen comrades and secure the Northwest Territory for their young nation. Wayne's Legion was a force to be reckoned with, ready to face any challenge, ready to write the next chapter in the history of the Ohio Valley. The aftermath of the Battle of Fallen Timbers, the decisive victory for General Wayne and his Legion, irrevocably altered the balance of power in the Ohio Valley. In the summer of 1795, representatives from dozens of Native American nations gathered at Fort Greenville to negotiate a treaty with the victors. The resulting Treaty of Greenville, though signed under duress, ceded vast tracts of indigenous land to the United States, formally opening the Ohio Territory to the relentless tide of westward expansion. With the Ohio country now firmly under American control, a wave of settlers surged westward, eager to claim their piece of the frontier. Forests fell, towns sprang up along newly carved roads, and the wilderness that had for centuries echoed with the languages and traditions of its Native American inhabitants was steadily transformed. The westward expansion of the United States, a defining chapter in its history, had begun in earnest, but the expansion of the United States came at a steep price for the Native American tribes who had long called this land home. The Treaty of Greenville, while promising peace, ushered in an era of forced displacement and cultural disruption. Yet even in the face of unimaginable hardship, their spirit remained unbroken. They adapted, they resisted, they endured. Their story, a poignant reminder of the enduring strength of the human spirit in the face of adversity. The Battle of the Wabash, fought along these quiet banks over 2 centuries ago, stands as a stark symbol of the complexities, tragedies, and triumphs that shaped a nation. It is a testament to the ambition and resilience of the United States, but also a stark reminder of the human cost of its westward expansion, a sobering lesson etched in the annals of history. Today, as we reflect upon the events that transpired along the banks of the Wabash, it is our duty to remember those who fought and fell on both sides of this conflict, to learn from the mistakes of the past, to honor the resilience of all those who endured, and to strive towards a future where understanding, empathy, and justice guide our steps